I have the honor in speaking today with the Congresswoman from the state of Texas, Sylvia Garcia. Congresswoman, how are you, ma'am?
I'm great, thank you.
I heard that you were exposed to COVID recently and you were self-quarantining. Are you okay?
Yes, I'm fine. I've now actually been tested 3 times. Been exposed twice. After the first exposure, I was advised to self-quarantine because it was one of my great nieces that was with me, and I was around her most of the weekend. So they suggested, although that I tested not negative, that I self-quarantine. The second time, I was on a Hispanic congressional tour of ICE detention facilities in South Texas. We were there for them to demonstrate to us that they were taking all the precautions for all these mothers and children that they had in one center and all the men that they had in another center. And lo and behold, the end of the week after that tour on Monday, they called us that one of the people who had guided us through had tested positive. So it was ironic that they were trying to show us that, no, we're doing everything right. There's nothing wrong. There's no concern about the detainees. And one of their own staff ended up being positive, an ICE employee. So that one, I had to go get tested, of course, and I tested negative. And because he was not around me and I didn't have any direct conversation with him, they decided I didn't need to self-quarantine. But I continued to check my temperature and my pulse and my oxygen levels. And thank God, everything was all right. So 2 scares, 3 tests, and I don't want any more.
We're happy that you're okay and that you're taking care
Enough
of yourself.
is enough. Enough is enough.
And thank you for everything you do for the great state of Texas.
Thank you.
Congresswoman, we're here today to talk about a tragic event that never should have happened. And it might sound like a dumb question, but it's a valid question. Congresswoman, why is Private First Class, a 20-year-old Latina that was proud of her country that joined the United States Army, dead?
I think the Army failed her. The Army failed her, and the Army has failed her family. You know, ever since she was 12, her father tells us in his own language in Spanish, que mi niña siempre se quería escribir. She always wanted to join the Army. And ever since she was 12, she told them that she wanted to serve in the military, to serve in her country, to better herself, because she wanted to be someone. She wanted to be able to give back to her family. Both of her parents are not citizens. All her, and she's got 2 sisters, a brother, I think it is. There's all the family, of course, so as the children were born here. But she wanted to do something better, and she loved her country and wanted to serve. So that dream of hers is now a tragedy. You know, she disappeared over 2.5 months, and then they found her remains, and we just got word, of course, Sunday, that the remains that were found buried were hers. So it's a tragedy for her dream. It's a tragedy for her family, and frankly, it's a tragedy for, you know, any parent who's thinking of their son or daughter who may join the service. You know, they've got to think twice now. Is it safe? If Vanessa Guillen could not be kept safe in the largest base that we have in our United States Army, I mean, if that's not safe, then what is? And if I were a parent, I certainly would be thinking about it.
You know, I don't have a sister, but I have a brother. I'm very proud of him. Michael Santos, who's part of the 82nd Airborne. He served our country proudly and deployed to Iraq twice. He made it back safely, thank God. But I can only imagine what, you know, went on in the minds of the Guillen family, and especially her mother. It's really crazy. The LULAC National President Domingo Garcia says that the military is not protecting female soldiers, and that Vanessa Guillen disappeared. This shouldn't have happened, and he's actually telling other Latinas not to join the military. Do you join them in that voice as well? Does something need to happen before we continue to recruit young ladies? And is this something really systematic that's happening in the Army?
Well, you know, I read a report that the caucus, if you will, of the House. In fact, I happen to have it in front of me because I just got it from my staff this week. It's the Women Veterans Task Force. They say in this report that 70% of the military sexual harassment cases go unreported. They go unreported. So if a system doesn't provide the environment, the comfort, the support that's needed for women, and remember, sometimes men, they get bullied, they get harassed. If they don't provide this process for them to feel like it's okay and they won't be retaliated against, that they won't be bullied or harassed or in any way put to shame because you're ratting on somebody. You know, that whole thinking sometimes. If you don't provide a process so that someone feels like they can report, they can file a complaint, then it's not going to happen. So who knows what happened here? She had shared with her friends back home here in Houston. She had shared with friends there on the base, in her barracks, in her platoon. She had shared with her family that she was not feeling comfortable, that she wasn't liking Fort Hood, that somebody above her was harassing her.
She specifically told her mother this, right? And her mother even wanted to get involved and said that her mom offered to help report it. And she said, no, Mom, I want to handle this on my own. And then she went missing a couple of days afterwards. Well,
it was probably more than just a couple of days. I mean, she shared this with them a couple of months before I think they
really
happened, that she was not feeling. A news report suggests that she had told them that she wasn't liking Fort Hood, that it wasn't like the other place that she'd been to. And I forget her other 2 assignments.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is, to me, you know, as a woman, you know, if you've shared it with your friends, you know, we like el chisme, we like la plática, especially about the guys, right? So if we've shared it with our friends, we've shared it with our parents, we've shared it with even our colleagues, then something must have happened. But unfortunately, the way the process worked, the CID group, which is the Criminal Intelligence Division of the Army, you know, investigates the disappearance. You know, they heard about the allegations and kind of looked at them and decided that there was no credible evidence, quote unquote, and just referred that for misconduct possibilities to the colonel over the regiments. But the criminal investigation has continued. To my mind, you know, both should have been investigated and fully from the very beginning, because the sexual harassment and the issues related to that, any fear, retaliation, or any harassment, could be a motive for a crime to be committed. You know, you need to connect the dots, as they say in lay terms. So I think what happened here is sad, and we have to get to the bottom of it.
With that said, Congresswoman, we're at a moment in the history of our country where we are asking for more transparency of our law enforcement, right? And it's a critical moment. Should we not be asking for more transparency also from the CID and investigations that take place that deal with our men and women in the military?
Oh, absolutely. And it's no different, quite frankly. It's people that you trust to provide and protect and serve. It's, you know, they wear uniforms, they wear badges just like a police officer. And you know, you might, you know, George Floyd died at the knee of a police officer, and Vanessa Guillen died, you know, in the hands of another soldier. Remember, it was another soldier who apparently now his girlfriend is saying he's the one who killed her on base, on the work site. But then when they approach him, you know, he shoots himself. So we'll never know the entire truth, regrettably.
There's only one side of the story right now, and that's
the girlfriend.
The girlfriend who's been arrested and facing these charges.
Right, and she's civilian, and she's under federal jurisdiction now because it's a federal crime, and they'll be prosecuted through the federal system outside of what the military is doing, continuing their criminal investigation to, you know, to kind of wind it down, if you will, because now their prime, you know, person of interest, you know, shot himself. So if everything that the girlfriend says is true, he's the one who killed her. She was not there, but helped him dispose of the body.
Secretary Julian Castro and his brother Congressman Joaquin Castro have both called for an independent and congressional investigation, of course, into the murder of Vanessa Guillen. And you're pushing for legislation to make sure this never happens again. Talk to
absolutely.
us. Talk to us about this.
Well, first of all, it never should have happened. We have to take every step that we can as Congress and make sure that we take the steps necessary that it never happen again. Everything from the way they notified the parents or didn't, because I was always very concerned with the sister telling us that, but for her driving from Houston to Guillen to go ask them, where's my sister? We've been trying to get a hold of her since, 11 this morning, and we've not heard back from her. Her emails keep coming back. She's not responding to texts. It's not like her. We communicated all the time. Something is wrong. I feel it. Where's my sister? They, frankly, I don't think knew she was missing. We're yet to connect all those dots because they went and checked, and it looks like the person who has to account for everybody being there had checked off that she was there. But in fact, she had already been murdered hours earlier. So there's some discrepancies there, and all those facts will come out as the case is worked in the courts. So we've got to do something about that. If somebody's saying someone is there, they need to be there. And I don't know if that's just a disciplinary issue that they need to work on at Fort Hood, whether it happens on all the bases, I don't know. But we need to look at that. We also need to look at, what is the responsibility of the Army in contacting families, when someone is injured or harmed or disappears. I mean, we shouldn't have to wait for the family to get concerned and ask about it. The Army should know and notify the parents. And as you said, be transparent, open, and give them updates at least once a week, which is what I demanded. And we started having with them once a week in my office, virtually, the colonel, the family, so they can talk. That had not happened. And then ultimately, of course, I asked for a visit on site, and we did go to Guillen, and we did do a tour of where she worked. We did, go through a briefing from them. But it shouldn't have to take a member of Congress for a parent who's concerned to get that.
Right.
Enrique, that's the problem that I see is they could have been more forthcoming. They could have been more transparent. They could have done a better job, in my mind, in the communication with the family. The language was a barrier, of course, because they're Spanish speaking, but that's easily fixed with an interpreter. And I think they recognize.
Yeah, there's no excuse for that.
There's not in today's world. It's
right.
Not
Exactly.
And more importantly, not in Texas. Not in Texas. Yeah. If this was Connecticut, maybe, or some Midwest state where you don't have.
There's a lot of Latinos in Texas for sure.
O alguien que no habla español, pues entonces sí lo comprendemos, ¿no? Pero no en Texas. Casi todos hablamos español. Es como Miami. But
yeah, there's parts of Miami that if you don't speak Spanish, you need a translator in English to help you.
I'm telling you, one time I was a judge once, and of course I speak Spanish, and the prosecutor spoke Spanish, and the defendant and the witnesses spoke Spanish, and the prosecutor did not. But we started talking and then finally the prosecutor just said, "How is the state doing in this case?" And I told him, I just said, "Look, don't worry about it. We're handling it," because he was the only one who didn't speak Spanish. But we kept going. But I think what we need to do, in all seriousness, is, do a full independent review. Once the Army finishes with their investigation, because they have to complete it. Once they do their own, they were working on an internal investigation on the sexual harassment allegations, because we insisted on it. They started one after I got involved. Once we get those, then the Congress needs to take that, look at it from top to bottom. If necessary, have a hearing. If necessary, go on site again and just look at it again from all angles, the criminal investigation, sexual harassment charges, and then what do we do to fix this to make sure it never happens again? We have to be able to look at every parent in the eye who takes their son or daughter to the first time on that base, whether it's the Navy, Army, Marines, or Air Force, and know that they're safe. It's like that first day of school.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that your kids are safe and they're going to come
Sure.
home.
Talking about school, we just
Remember, these kids are young. She was 20.
Yeah. And with that said,
20.
we have a lot of young ladies that just graduated right now. Some of them are still considering, what career paths to take. What would you tell a young lady that's considering joining the Army today, and or their family members that may be concerned?
Well, I think they have to search their heart, and they have to understand that this is an option for them, and they can get trained. They can get the GI Bill and go on to college and do better. But they need to make sure that this is the right thing for them. I think they should do, like, even when you go to college, go visit a base. Make sure you're going to feel comfortable with the regimen and the routine, and check it all out, because I think for many parents, this case is going to, give them some caution. But I think all in all, the service is a good option for many young people. I know my 3 brothers did the same thing as Vanessa. As soon as they graduated from high school, they joined the Air Force. I had 5 uncles in the Army who served in World War II, all at the same time. 5 Garcia brothers, in war. I mean, we still have the little newspaper article they wrote about my grandfather, because he had 5 sons in the Army at one time. Service has always been an option for so many Latino families. We have the largest number of Medal of Honor winners. We have a big chunk of the people that enlist. I forget the number right now, but it's growing. And the Latina part of it, and women joining the service is growing. But regrettably, again, that report that I was reading last night, the number of sexual harassment complaints is also growing. There's been an increase, and that's concerning. The Army, the services have to do a better job at providing the support in the environment so that women can file complaints, and they need to do a better job of making sure that the workplace is safe for everybody.
Well, Congresswoman, thank you for what you're doing in memory of Vanessa Guillen, and for all women and Latinos and anyone that feels compelled to join the military, our awesome United States military, to make sure that this does not ever happen to anyone again. And, to ignore what happened to Vanessa Guillen would be a disservice to her legacy and to her service. So thank you, Congresswoman. All the best. Stay healthy. Texas is hot right now with the COVID-19, and so is the state of Florida, and a lot of your fellow politicians, maybe not on the same side of the aisle, but people have politicized this virus, which is so ridiculous, and it's so sad to see so many people suffer and unnecessarily die because some have made it a partisan thing to wear a mask, and have fed into conspiracy theories, and we can go on and on with the whole COVID thing, but it's really ridiculous in my opinion.
Well, for now, our district is hurting. They're scared of the virus, but their hearts are broken, and we're not going to rest until we find justice for Vanessa Guillen. So I appreciate the time.
Thank you, ma'am. All the best to you. Stay healthy.
Bye-bye. Adios.
Gracias.